Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Ukrainian show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star. We have today our guest, Dr. Jonathan Lockwood. Welcome to the show, Jonathan. Great
Thank you.
to have
Glad
you
to
as
be
always.
here.
And Ivan Kucherenko from Kiev, Ukraine. Welcome to the show. Great
Hello,
to have
everyone.
you, Ivan. So today is our first program since the great NATO summit in Vilnius, Lithuania. First of all, let's thank Lithuania for hosting a great event. And from what I heard, there were about 25,000 Ukrainian flags on all the way from airport to the center of the city. So this is really great presentation. Now, let's talk about summit itself. I have my own view, which I have formed in the last couple of days, reading the materials of the summit, commentaries, and so on. But I will leave it for later stages. Right now, let's first hear from Ivan, because obviously it was for Ukraine very, very important event. And then Jonathan, get ready, and then I will continue. Thanks. Go ahead, Ivan.
Okay, then I will start with the video because I have another video
Excellent.
about the NATO summit, and then I will give some of my
Good idea.
opinion about it.
Thank you.
Сьогодні я поїхав дорогу сюди з вірою у рішення, з вірою у партнерів, з вірою у сильне НАТО. У НАТО, яке не сумнівається, не втрачає час і не озирається на будь-якого агресора. І я хотів би, щоб ця віра стала впевненістю у рішеннях, на які ми заслуговуємо. Всі ми заслуговуємо, і яких очікує кожен наш воїн, кожен наш громадянин, кожна наша мати, кожна наша дитина. І хіба це за велике бажання? НАТО дасть Україні безпеку. Україна зробить НАТО сильніше. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
So you've seen the number of people on the main square in Vilnius. I think that almost every citizen of Vilnius been here. I got a lot of friends amongst Ukrainians, some colleagues here as well, and they've sent me photos. And really, it was the whole city in Ukrainian flags. And if actually people could vote in this question, I think that Ukraine already have been part of the NATO, despite understanding that these people probably will have to go to the war as soldiers in order to help Ukraine defend ourselves. But unfortunately, people vote only for the politicians, and then politicians take decisions. And decision of members of the NATO was not to invite Ukraine during this summit. And actually, for me, it's quite disappointing. Of course, we didn't expect that we will be taken to NATO immediately. In Vilnius, there is obviously a lot of obstacles toward this process, but invitation to join the NATO with some specific action steps, which Ukraine have to proceed with in order to join, and that probably would be more powerful answer to Moscow. And with this hesitation, obviously Moscow sees that they can continue war in Ukraine. We've discussed this on our previous show, that the statement of NATO members of NATO is that Ukraine will be taken to NATO after the end of the war. So Moscow understands it as still the war goes on, Ukraine will never be taken to NATO. So they are not interested in ending this war, and they will try to continue it as long as possible. So that's my opinion.
Okay, Jonathan, let's hear your words of wisdom.
Okay. Well, the NATO summit as a whole can only be nothing but bad news for Russia, because it illustrates the solidarity of NATO nations behind the Ukrainian war effort. And it also is, as Ivan pointed out, the war can only end, given what has taken place, the war can only end once Russian forces have been completely driven from Ukrainian territory. Key to that will be the retaking of the Crimea. And the objective, one of the obvious objectives of the Ukrainian counteroffensive, will be to sever the path, the supply route, with between Russia and the Crimea, cut off the Crimea so that they can no longer resupply it, and it should fall rather easily to Ukrainian forces. And once that occurs, the rate that the steady counteroffensive of Ukrainian forces is going, that an operational military victory is possible. And once that is possible, once Russia has been driven from Ukraine and its territories, then there is no point really in Russia trying to continue the war, because their offensive capability is growing less and less by the day. And so it is going to be a very difficult proposition for Russia to continue the war once they have been driven from Ukrainian territory.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now it's my turn. Okay, here's what I saw in this meeting. It's for the first time ever, the West, United States, went public about the deficiencies in Ukrainian management, in Ukrainian style of government, the corruption, the enormous number of Russian-connected politicians in Ukrainian government, which makes at this time, under these circumstances, any membership in NATO, which is not just military, it's political military alliance, makes participation of Ukraine impossible. You can help Ukraine with the weapons as much as you want. You can sell them. You can send them 10,000 tanks and eventually F-16s. By the way, I want to tell you something. That each time that the new item is being discussed, let's see, tanks, Leopards, or Abrams or something, the discussion is going on for 6-9 months, if no longer. That enough time for Russians to prepare to eventuality of Leopards and Abrams and so on, and prepare and build more anti-tank weapons and minefields to be, as we speak, there are 200,000 square kilometers of mines. Same thing with F-16s. So now F-16s are being discussed, as I remember, 6, maybe 9 months, and there will be another 9 months before there will be in March of next year they will be delivered. So Russians giving a lead time of 1.5 years. So what NATO is saying, Russians, okay, we can do nothing about it. Ukraine will get F-16s, by the way, get ready. So Russia says, sure, we'll get ready. So Russia will build 10,000 of their MiG-29s or 21 or 23. So the advantage of bringing what NATO will give Ukraine, so I say 50, maybe 100 planes, the 10,000 Russian MiGs will destroy all these F-16s in the first day. So what's a good thing about giving this F-16s after a year and a half negotiations and so on? Good, nothing good. So essentially, NATO, obviously, in the United States, they're playing their own game. Don't forget, there are three players. There is NATO, United States, there is Ukraine, there is Russia. The goals are different from all these players. They're not the same. That's important to understand that NATO, of course, they don't want Ukraine to lose this war. They also don't want Russia to lose in disgrace and so on. Yeah, okay, probably Russia will get knocked down as a result of this war, but it still remains to be seen. Russia is still very strong militarily. Their generals probably are not the best in the world, and they're making several mistakes almost every day. But the numbers, the ability of their infrastructure to produce more and more weapons of all kinds, from artillery to tanks to fighter jets. You can't turn, plus the enormous potential of a million soldiers on the Ukrainian front. We have to always view that as a distinct possibility. So in this equilibrium, what I'm trying to say is that NATO is playing a game of number one goal in this war, in my opinion, is to weaken Russia to a situation where Russia will never, ever in the foreseeable future will start any other war, imperialistic or nationalistic, or just any war whatsoever. Okay? That's understandable. For NATO is a containment and keeping the balance of power one way or another. They're doing a pretty good job at it. Now, Ukraine goal is obviously to get aggressors, soldiers out of Ukraine altogether and continue its independence, become part of NATO, European Union, and become part of the Western world. Now, a couple of remarks about the conflict between Zelensky and Wallace and other NATO countries. My opinion is you have to understand that there is a different mentality in the West and Ukraine. And don't forget, Ukraine was a part of Soviet Union and before Russia. And for 500 years, Ukraine hasn't built its really a functioning government, country as a whole, or so on. It's only now, even the 30 years since 1991, it hasn't done nothing. And only now it's starting to happen. The good thing, though, is that the West will help anyway for Ukraine to get out of this malaise where it is now. I was sick when I saw the picture of NATO and Zelensky, who is, in my opinion, a great hero. He just got a little bit tired, and hopefully maybe it will be a time in March for him to go. Not that he is not worthy of being president, not at all. He is, but one man can carry only so much, and Zelensky carried a lot during the last year and a half. So I saw the picture where Zelensky was, it was a table, Ukraine, NATO, and so on one side of the table there was Zelensky, and next to him, Yermak, what's his name, Reznikov, so on. As much as I enjoyed seeing picture of Zelensky, who was very confident and behaved very well, the others too, it was complete discord. These people don't belong on the same table. In fact, West is now saying it already published a list of 51 persons that must go. The number one name in that list was Yermak. No, Zelensky says no. By the way, each time there was a communication between NATO and Ukraine, so NATO was sending messages about the reforms of the government, about corruption, what has to be done. Ukrainians were saying, yeah, sure, we'll do this and that. So next communication between. So what are the steps you done? Forget about the steps. We need tanks, we need artillery, we need this and this and that and that. The next time communication, same thing. They ignore completely what West is telling them to do. They ignore. They just say, we need so much tanks. Oh, we need also this, and we need all the ammunition, and we need this and that. Ignoring, not even discussing. You know what? It's quite interesting. The Ukraine has guts to continue rely on the Western help and ignoring absolutely everything what they're being told to do. And you, if you disagree with that, explain yourself why you disagree, why you cannot do that. Maybe Western leaders don't understand that. Explain it, help them and yourself. They're not doing that. So Ukrainian people, as a result, are misinformed. So they're saying that NATO is so bad, they didn't even issue an invitation. How you can issue in your right mind an invitation if you are saying clear, loud, that Ukraine is not ready at this time to become member of NATO? How you do invite somebody who is not ready? When? At what business? At what political circumstances? Whenever in history that has been done? There is no answer to that question. No. So this is absolutely nonsense, and I think Zelensky is, of course, he's very tired. He's overworked. He's done huge mistakes during the summit. But again, I don't want to hold it against him because, again, under the circumstances, it's understandable. The results overall, surprisingly, were very good for Ukraine because Ukraine got a great deal of new weapons. And this is the most important. Let's get now down to earth. Forget about the summit. It's gone already. Right now, the goal is to kill as many Russians as possible. You don't need territory, don't need kill. Okay, here's a Russian. Oops. Okay, and you killed him. That's all what Ukrainians at this time have to do. There is no other way.
I must partially agree with you, Sasha, and in most things to disagree. Of course, you're right that the goal of NATO is to weaken Russia. And when you're saying that some Western leaders they want Ukraine to win, I'm not sure that they really want Ukraine to win.
That's what I said.
I think that they don't want Russia to win, and they want Ukraine not to lose. All these, Jonathan probably will agree with me as well, but all these Western generals, like Minister of Defense of Great Britain, Wallace, they were preparing all their life to have a war with Russians, with Soviet Union. It was their main enemy, and because of the politics, because of their because they're afraid of nuclear war, they have no possibility to war with Russia directly. And in this, probably Russian propaganda is a little bit right. It's awful to say this, but in it, it's right that they're using Ukraine as instrument in this war, and their attitude towards Ukraine is like an attitude towards just an instrument, just a tool. Otherwise, Minister of Defense never in his life could say that Ukraine should be more grateful for the help and not to demand all those weapons like in Amazon. We are not demanding. We require them to save the lives our soldiers. It's not British soldiers, not American soldiers who are dying in Ukraine.
Ivan,
And,
I'll tell you what's
let me finish, please. And the reaction of President Zelensky is about it when United Kingdom and United States, other NATO members are thinking about whether to give or not to give F-16s, to give or not to give ATACMS. Ukrainian soldiers are dying, and this resource, which is not, unfortunately, which is not indefinite in Ukraine. And actually, it's not a resource at all, because Ukrainian government, Ukrainian politicians, they are thinking about our soldiers not like the Russia does about their soldiers. In Russia, people are just a resource, and they have much more of such resource than Ukraine. In Ukraine, people, there is less people than in Russia. There is less mobilization potential than in Russia. And the time when Western countries are thinking about providing Ukraine with weapons, this time Ukrainian soldiers are dying. It was announced in the May that Ukraine will get F-16s. And we all heard that Ukrainian pilots have at least 4 months to study on them. And what we see, that the training of Ukrainian pilots will start only in August. What 3 months have been done? So it's not about Zelensky, Yermak, whatever. I think it's about the attitude of NATO towards Ukraine. And let's see about NATO itself. If NATO is so curious about and thinks so much about the corruption and other stuff, why they're keeping Hungary in NATO, which is playing towards Russia and Russian interests in the middle of NATO, and it supports Russia. They are spreading Russian narratives. Maybe they are trading the NATO internal data with Russia as well. Nobody knows it. And I think that this is not only about a goodwill of Hungary and their officials, but also about corruption as well, and money which they receive from Russia. And this is probably the main answer. At least all my colleagues and fellows from Hungary, who I know, they are saying that their government is corrupted. But Hungary is a member of NATO. Hungary is the member of European Union. And why NATO is not saying, Hungary, stop playing Russia, otherwise we will kick off you from NATO?
It's impossible. According to NATO statutes, no member can be rejected from the NATO except he himself will make an application that he no longer wished to be a member of NATO, which happened, by the way, to France in the late 50s, although it remained political affiliated with NATO, but military, France at that time believed that there is no way that somebody will command a French soldiers. It's only French who can command French soldiers. Okay, the situation then changed. Now, I'm pretty sure, Ivan, I agree with you that if Hungary today wouldn't be a member of NATO and European Union and made an application to both, it would be rejected. I agree with you on that 100%. Now, Ivan, see, this discussion is very difficult because there are so many different layers. There is one is the military level, and I think this is number one. That's where all will be decided one way or another. That's number one. Number two, I will bring it now as number three, but number two, what I would say is, in all world, including NATO, they like and they respect strong nations that can defend themselves, that they're well-to-do financially. And Ukraine, even while it's fighting this horrible war, it has to now start of developing their industries and becoming more ingrained in the so-called industrial complex. And so this way there will be much more in the future, at least, much more interaction with West, with Western industries, businesses, and so on. So it will slowly will become integrated in the West. Number three, okay, again, different ones. The ones that I'm going to say will be the number four. So number three, I'll put that West still doesn't see Ukraine as one of its own. It will happen, but not yet. Right now, they see, okay, there was a huge and great Soviet Union, the greatest empire in all the times in all the world, and probably all universe, until 1991, by the way. So it wasn't long until the greatest empire of all world collapsed. So what they see now, okay, so they were smart enough to scoop all these Warsaw Pact countries like Poland and then even Hungary, Czech, finally Baltic republics, the latest. They scooped up and made them sort of like little brothers of the big West powers like US, England, French, Germany. So now there are some little brothers, but little brothers, they're still part of the family. Now, what they see is that after collapse in 1991, so forget about Baltic republics, they're goners. So now there are several former Soviet Union territories which still part of the not Soviet anymore, but at least Russian sphere of influence. So all these little stans like Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan and all other stans, and Uzbekistan and what else is Azerbaijan, the Caucasian republics, and guess what? And Ukraine and Moldova. So they're seeing this as a part of former Russian Empire, then Soviet Empire, and finally there is sort of Russia is trying to reestablish its empire because it's still by far the mightiest country of all this disaster what happened in 1991. So it will just take time until Russia will get all its territories back, whether they will become part of Russia or there will be autonomous republics like Tatarstan or Bashkirstan or so on. So, however, the way that things developed in Ukraine is very different from Uzbekistan and all other stans, because none of them has any aspirations to become part of the West, to end up with Russian domination or so on. But that will happen in Ukraine. Ukrainian people decisively in the Maidan of 2014, even earlier in 2004, in the first Maidan, they already wanted to move more towards the West, and they rejected Putin's nominee Yanukovych at that time, and Yushchenko became a president. So Ukraine is very, very different case. So NATO partially recognized that, and the way that they're so fiercely supporting Ukraine more and more as the time goes by. If you remember, at the beginning they were sending some Stingers, and even that was a big deal at that time, and all of a sudden, and where we are now. So there is a great deal really happened. So now, with the latest things what's happened in Kremlin, Prigozhin affairs or so, now NATO and the United States are becoming emboldened against Russia. They're not scared as much as they used to be of Russia. So they are now, at the same time, they do have a lot of respect for Russia. So they give them lead time about F-16s, like they did with tanks. Okay, guys, you prepare, build your 10,000 MiGs of some kinds, and let's figure out who is doing well, who is doing so well. So in this case, I think Ukraine is making, or at least government of Ukraine is making a very, very big mistake. And this is my point number 4. Making a big mistake by ignoring the suggestions and requests of NATO and United States. So therefore, they misinforming their people that, oh, NATO is so bad, they didn't even issue an invitation or so on. This is a horrible action on present Ukrainian government. I'm sorry to say that. So as much as the Ukrainian army is doing fantastic job, Ukrainian people are doing great job, Ukrainian government fails to be on the same level. They are something what, by the way, you have to understand that when people are publicizing and making so happy that all those steps to join NATO were removed from Ukraine. But it's horrible. It's better that those steps would be there. So at least, okay, step number 1, A, B, C, D, E. Oh, we're done. A, B, C, D, E. We're done. Okay, next. Number 2. No, there are no steps required at all. It's when West and United States will feel comfortable that the government reformed, succeeded in Ukraine. And for that, you have to work super hard. You have to get rid of the people who are on the list supplied by the West, because all West want Ukraine to become a properly functioning democracy, which will be ready very quickly to join both NATO and European Union. So Ukrainian people have to demand from its government, please do these steps what are required so we can proceed further to NATO and European Union. But Ukrainian people, of course, are misinformed of what really happening in Vilnius. Jonathan, what's your opinion?
Wait, come on, where's the grenade? Come on.
Yes,
what's
yes.
that grenade? All this preceding discussion simply underscores the politically irreconcilable nature of Russia's goals and Ukraine's goals. Yeah, the goal of Russia is to reunify the Russian Empire, for which Ukraine is excuse me?
As a minimum.
At a minimum, they in order to reunify the Russian Empire, of which Ukraine is a key component. It cannot exist without Ukraine. From Ukraine's point of view, Ukrainian independence is the primary goal. It will never accept, it cannot accept, in order to maintain its own existence, it cannot accept any domination and interference by the Russians. So you have here 2 politically irreconcilable goals, which can only be resolved when a military victory or a war forces one side to give up its goal. There is no compromise. There is no meeting the other halfway. There is, or even from the Russian standpoint, a compromise would be mutual surrender, so which is unacceptable to them. So you have here a case, because NATO does not want Ukraine to lose. What you are setting up is a potential forever war, as one science fiction writer put it, in which it just drags on interminably for years until one side just finally caves. So this is a very unpleasant alternative. So the burden now becomes on the Ukrainian military to create the conditions for forcing the Russians to give up their goal, and that means an operational battlefield victory by the Ukrainian military against Russia to expel Russia from all Ukrainian territory. That is about the only path, and it's a difficult one to be sure, but it's the only path that gives Ukraine a chance with NATO to establish a peace which will set the stage for eventual admission into NATO. Because anything short of military victory on the battlefield will not work. The war will drag on.
Jonathan, don't you see that there is a trap to which Ukraine unfortunately fell as the NATO and United States actions? The trap being is that, number one, forget about all this government reform, corruption, and so on. Let's leave it for the time being. But the second condition is that we will allow Ukraine to join NATO after the war will be over. It's one interpretation, number one. Number two interpretation, after Ukraine will win this war. The both interpretations are very uncertain and open to different interpretations. What it means a victory? Let's see if Ukraine will take Crimea but will not be able to take Donbass. Is it a victory? If vice versa, will take Donbass but not will be able to penetrate and take over Crimea, is different. Now, continuation of war. Let's see Russians which are sending hundreds of drones every night to Ukrainian cities. Let's see if they will slow down. They will send only one drone every second day, 3 drones a week, and nothing else. Is this war still continuous, or is it the end of the war? How you interpret that? So there's very vague and very difficult concepts that Ukraine has to deal with, and without aviation and superiority in the air, or even parity in the air, Ukraine is required, in order to fulfill all its aspirations with NATO, they require to go and storm Russians' positions when they are heavily mined and heavily fortifications and heavy. There will be enormous amount of sacrifices that Ukraine must bear, and I don't think Ukraine should go for that at all. It's better to preserve its army, not to agree to any peace with Russia at all, and slowly prepare for next year offensive now with ATACMS, with F-16 fighters. And even that's not going to be easy because, as I said before, Russians will prepare for everything as they are prepared now. If, remember when Ukraine had its offensive in Kherson and Kharkiv, they were going like knives through the butter. They were so quick and successful, and they allowed Russians to build all these fortifications and landmines and so on. And Ivan, would you agree with me?
Yeah, no, I will not agree with you because first of all, in Kherson it was not so easy operation like in Kharkiv, and it was also long, and Ukraine was destroying the Russian supply chains and their ammunition warehouses for several months actually before the Kherson operation. And as for you saying that we give them time to prepare fortifications, actually not we give them time.
I'm talking about
when Ukraine received tanks for this operation.
That's my point.
Only in summer, and even now we didn't receive the whole promised amount. It was not Ukraine actually from which the information, the intel about the number of brigades which Ukraine prepared and the status of Ukrainian anti-air defense was stolen. It was from the Pentagon, that leak about which we forget. And now, when Ukraine is not moving so fast, everyone says, why are you not moving so fast? We gave you tanks, we gave you ammunition, we gave you everything. Hey, move faster, go faster on the Russian mines, on the Russian fortifications. Why you let Russia to prepare this fortification? And the same situation actually will be with F-16. Now Russia is actively repairing all their available and preparing all their available aircrafts.
They're calling all their pilots.
They're recalling all their pilots. They're preparing for Ukraine to get F-16. And the time when Ukraine will receive those 30 or 40 F-16, Russia will have much more fighters against them. And Russia will send 10 their old Soviet fighters versus one F-16, but these are 10 versus 1.
Agree.
And then on the West, everyone will say that, oh, why you are so not effective on those? We gave you F-16 when you promised us F-16s and when you gave us the F-16, and this is actually a point. And this time, during all those politicians are promising and then delaying the supplies and saying that Ukrainian must be more grateful and that Ukraine should know order what they need, like on Amazon, etc., etc. Ukrainian soldiers are dying. Ukrainian civilians are dying. Russia bombs the Ukraine. Yesterday they had another attack on Kyiv, and the remains of the Iranian drone which Russia uses. They fallen on the residential building in my district, building several meters away from my apartment. And if we discussed all the issues, then probably we can end our show with the video about the recent Russian attack on Kyiv. And I hope that I'm not sure that Ben Wallace is watching our show, but maybe some his colleagues in the United States and Canada, which can just assist in all the supplies to go a little bit faster, are watching, or at least the people of the United States and Canada, which can influence the politicians actually they elect to make this. We're thankful for the help from Western countries. But
thank God, Canada. Canada has no problem to convince its politicians to help Ukraine as much.
Unfortunately, this help is, first of all, is going slowly, and we are still not receiving everything that we need. So let's see the video.
Okay.
Let's see another try. Maybe some problems with the video.
Great.
Yeah, another try, please.
Excellent video, and of course it shows a great tragedy of Ukraine. I totally agree with you, Ivan. There's no disagreements between us. In the meantime, I would like to thank you so much for participation in today's program. So I will see you very soon Tuesday, hopefully with better news. In the meantime, everyone minds its own business. Russia rebuilds its empire. Ukraine is fighting for independence, and NATO and United States keeping the balance of power. So everybody's busy with whatever they're doing, and let's hope that something good for Ukraine will come out of it. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Well,